Hey friends. April was Autism Awareness Month, and I asked you guys to give me some questions about autism that you'd like me to answer, and you guys definitely delivered. So, for those of you who are new here, hey, welcome, stay for a little bit. I am Hobby Moth. You can call me Moth or Ash, whatever you want. Here on YouTube, I make videos about crocheting, mental health, body doubling, vlogs, things like that. So if you like that, stick around. This might be the first of many autism related videos, so I don't know why I'm so nervous to start this video. I didn't write any scripts or anything, so if it gets a little bit rambly, I'm sorry. I'm gonna try to keep it streamlined, but we'll see what happens. A lot of you had the same idea for questions, so I'm gonna group all the similar ones together. Getaway Crochet asks, how did you come to suspect or get diagnosed with autism? So this will be kind of a long answer. So I was diagnosed with anxiety and depression when I was 19. In 2020, we all know what happened. I feel like that was a wake-up call for a lot of people. So I didn't have to work in 2020. I was living with my parents, and I also had just graduated school, so besides like the entire world, there wasn't really any like big stressors or anything that should have made me feel as terrible as I did. I was also in therapy towards the end of 2020, and I wasn't really feeling better, and I felt like the behavioral therapy kind of esque techniques for anxiety and depression just were not working on me and were making me feel worse. This is gonna sound a little off topic, but in the summer of 2020, we took a trip to my grandma's house, and she always gives me like her old magazines, like Reader's Digest and Women's Health or something. I don't know. I can't remember what magazine it was in, but I still have the clipping at home. There was an article about mental health, and a few women shared their experiences. So I think it had like depression, DID, and BPD. And I was reading the thing about BPD because I didn't know that that was a diagnosis that you could have. I didn't know it was a thing. So if you don't know, BPD is not borderline, or no, is not bipolar disorder. That is not what it is, because that's what I thought for the longest time. It is borderline personality disorder, and I don't know enough about it to speak on it, but the woman in the magazine was talking about how she never knew how people perceived her, and she didn't know how to like act in front of people, or she never felt sure that like the people around her who said that they loved her and stuff were actually telling the truth. And I really resonated with that. And I went down the rabbit hole of like researching BPD and figuring out if that is what I have, which makes sense because a lot of medical providers do misdiagnose people with, especially women with autism, get misdiagnosed with BPD a lot because of the trauma. Our symptoms can be pretty similar, which is why I related so much. When I got a therapist at the end of 2020, immediately on the first day, she diagnosed me with OCD. I know this is getting into a tangent, but I feel like it's all important. And I feel like if you're asking this question, you want all pieces of the journey, so I'm going to give you all pieces of the journey. My first meeting with her, I brought her some of my struggles, and she was like, do you have OCD? And I was like, no, but my sister does. And she was like, do you think you might have OCD? And I was like, no, duh, obviously. And then I almost didn't go back to her because I thought she just didn't know what she was talking about. But I didn't know what I was talking about. So shout out Vicky. Vicky was the best therapist, and I do not think I will ever find anyone like her. She changed career paths, so it's not like I can just go right back to her. Okay, anyway. Vicky, if you're listening, I love you. Okay, enough about the therapy aspect from then on. So, I knew I had OCD. I suspected that I had BPD. And then enter TikTok. I also got on TikTok in 2020. I feel like this happened to everyone to the point where there's like memes about this phenomenon, but there are so many TikToks about, oh, if you like the color blue, you have ADHD, like things like that. And I got suckered into it, and I was like, oh my god, I totally have inattentive ADHD and all this stuff. And I would bring it to my therapist, and she was like, I don't know about that. And the funny thing is, I don't exactly remember how I settled on autism. I think it was also through TikTok. Like the TikToks went from like BPD to ADHD to autism, and each time it just kept getting more and more accurate to what I was experiencing. Like I'm pretty media literate, you know? I know not to believe everything that's on there. So there are these tests or like quizzes that you can take that I forget where exactly I found them. It was probably also on TikTok. But they assess you for common traits of autism, and it's not a diagnostic tool, but it just kind of helps you figure out if you should look further into it. So I will link those all below if you guys are interested in taking them, or if you guys want to do a video where we take them together. I think that would be kind of fun too, so you can see what I score and how I answer as an actual autistic person. And then the biggest thing was looking at autism threads on, I don't know if it was Reddit, but just on a few different websites, and hearing actual autistic people share their experience, and watching YouTube videos of other autistic people, and just like, it's hard to say this, but it's like when you know, you know. Like when I was watching stuff about ADHD, I was like, oh, it looks like kind of familiar. It might be true. And then when I was watching autism stuff, it was like, it just like hit me like a brick. And I was like, oh my god, this is it. So a very lengthy answer to Getaway Crochet's question. I think it's about to storm. Chelsea Baxter on Instagram also asked, what led you to get a diagnosis, or was it requested by your GP or therapist? So my therapist was leaving right around the time that I started to suspect autism. So, and also I was just not very good at therapy and asking for what I wanted. So me and my therapist didn't talk about autism much, but the really funny thing is when we were going through my file on the last day and she was going to try to transfer me to another therapist, she was flipping through the pages and she was like, huh. And she looked at me and she was like, are you autistic? And it wasn't like accusatory. It was like, is your name spelled like this? And I said, no. And she was like, that's what I thought. I don't know why I had something written down here. And I didn't think anything of it, but I don't know. She must have suspected something and just not told me or never brought it up, which I think is very funny. So what led me to get a diagnosis? There is something clicking in my jaw or in my sinuses right now, and I really hope you can't hear it, but it's very loud for me. All right, anyway, what led me to get a diagnosis? Self-diagnosis is pretty widely accepted in the autism community because it's expensive and a lot of doctors misdiagnose you because it's not as deeply understood as it should be. I could have just stuck with a self-diagnosis because I was very sure of myself, but there was some part of me, like the perfectionist student in me, that was like, if it's not on paper, then it's not real. And I think I didn't trust myself to know myself that well. And I especially didn't trust that other people would believe me if I told them that. So I just felt more comfortable having it on paper. And I just wanted that validation of someone validating me, you know? Okay, so pastel, is it Keki or Kiki? I'm sorry, I know I talk to you all the time. Pastel Keki and Elise Niebush on Instagram both asked what was the process of getting diagnosed. So, can I help you, ma'am? Excuse me. Mother is working. I was honestly very lost with the diagnosis process. I was looking at like children's hospitals and the local disability boards and things like that. I found this clinic that did evaluations like an hour away from me, and the cost without insurance was, I think, $4,000 for the assessment. So I was fully prepared to save up for that. That's how badly I wanted to figure it out. And then I downloaded Bumble BFF and met my very cool friend Liv, who had something about recently being diagnosed in their profile. So I asked them about it. And since they were in my area, they recommended me this doctor who was actually kind of just right down the street from me. And she only charged $900 for the whole exam or assessment or whatever. And I am just so grateful that I'm grateful that Olivia is my friend now as a whole, but also so grateful that they were able to give me that resource. I looked into this person. This is like all she does is do diagnostic tests for ADHD and autism. So I contacted her, told her the situation, and got an appointment scheduled. And I think it was like 3 months out I had to schedule it, which was super stressful because, I don't know, I just wanted to know the answer really quickly. So the appointments, I should have written notes because I don't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure it was, you know what, let me look in my calendar and see actually if I can find this. Okay, so I found our original emails. So the adult evaluation was $8.99, and it could have gone up to, I don't know why I'm losing my voice. It could have gone up to $12.50 if we wanted to do other testing, like for a learning disability or something like that. Okay, so it looks like we did 4 sessions altogether. So it was a session every other week. And the sessions were about 2.5, 3 hours. She asked me questions. She gave me a handout of the DSM-5 criteria. And as an autistic person does, I brought a binder full of just like notes and stuff and points to bring up to like defend my case, kind of. And she had me take like some online quizzes, and I don't know, it was a very stressful time for me because I was paying a lot for this process, and I was so confident of what the answer was that I don't know, it was so stressful. She was very kind, and I could tell that she was in this to help people. So it really wasn't that bad, but it was definitely a nerve-wracking process. I got so sweaty just sitting there on that couch. We had those 4 long sessions, and then on the last one she sat me down and handed me like a big packet of all the stuff that she learned about me. She was like, well, you have autism. You have autism spectrum disorder, which is what it is called right now. And I think there was like different levels or something, and it was because high functioning and low functioning are not a thing anymore, but I was under requires little daily assistance or something like that. I don't know. So that was the diagnostic process. So Elise Niebush on Instagram, hi Elise, also asked, has your life changed in any way since being diagnosed? And absolutely. I get like Snapchat memories every day and like, real memories in my head of like the time before 2 or 3 years ago. And I don't recognize anything there because if you had told 19 or 21-year-old me that I was autistic, I don't even know what would have happened. But there is no way. Like, my mask was going so strong. Like, I was thriving in so many ways except mentally. And by the time I was an adult, I had mastered, like I said, masking and like building this reality for myself in order to survive. And after I started learning about autism and after I, like was told that I have it, I just started unpacking all of these, like all these things that I do and all of these childhood experiences that I have, just realizing like how much I've gone through in the bigger scheme of things, but also on the day-to-day basis, all of the autistic things that I do and also the struggles that I face. So the negatives are probably knowing that I'll always be like this, which sounds kind of bad, but I like to fix things, and just knowing that I'll have like these sensory struggles and these mood struggles and things like that my whole life was very disheartening at first. And then another downside, which is probably the biggest, which I've been really struggling with lately, is looking back on my life and realizing how much I actually struggled, which I'll talk about more in the next question, but like realizing how different my life experience was from a lot of the people around me that I just didn't notice at the time. I didn't realize how othered I was or how othered that I felt. But there are definitely more positive sides, because before I had a diagnosis or even suspected anything, I felt like shit all the time. Every waking moment was just like sensory hell and emotional distress, and I didn't know what it was. I didn't know how to feel it. I didn't know how to identify it. So, okay, like those Snickers commercials? I think it's Snickers, where you just feel super mean and then you eat something and you realize that you were just hungry. Imagine that, but for my entire life with like anxiety and depression. I was just feeling so god awful all the time. And then someone handed me the Snickers of, "You're autistic." And I was like, it all made so much sense. So, positives. I had a name for everything. Part of having a name for everything was I could find a community for it now. So I had my friend Olivia, and I also had people online in forums and people that I met in real life. And I'm gonna cry. I will not cry in this video, but it's getting there. It's getting there. Because it was just so beautiful to like find other autistic people and relate to them and know that I am not alone. Yeah, so anyway, what was the question? Okay, has my life changed in any way? Absolutely, it's changed in every way. I can't say that much has really stayed the same since getting a diagnosis. I will never be that chill, put together, perfectly curated mask person again. And so now I have the really painful but really exciting opportunity to find out who I actually am and be that. A little more emotional of an answer than I thought I was going to give. This next question is from Alligator Fed on Instagram. I promise there are some more cheerful questions after this one. This is the last kind of downer. Maybe. We'll see. So, Alligator Fed asks, even before you were diagnosed, was it difficult for you to form friendships? As I've touched on already, the answer was yes, but I didn't realize that I was having a hard time. So, I've always had friend groups rather than individual friends, and they were usually like around a significant other. I know you didn't ask about dating history, but I have been with 4 different people since middle school, dating wise. And I have only been out of a relationship for like a total of 3 months since middle school. So my friend groups have always kind of been that partners, friends, and then some of my friends. And then either we break up or like there's some other falling out and I just kind of adopt a new friend group. And luckily there have been a few people who have stayed constant in those friend groups. Shout out Shelby if Shelby's watching this. And I always liked that because when we would hang out as a group. So there would be like 4 to 8 people all hanging out together, and I could just chime in when I wanted to. It was usually like, a silly, goofy time. I was grateful for that because one-on-one, like hanging out with people one-on-one, has always stressed me out, and it still kind of stresses me out. If I am really close to someone in a group setting, and I can talk to them and like joke with them and everything, if you put me in a one-on-one setting with them, I will probably have a really hard time because all of the attention that's usually just like bouncing around the room is just bouncing between us, and I don't know how to handle that. I've always been really glad that I've just had mostly friend groups until just recently when I started making my own friends, like individually. And I started hanging out with more people one-on-one. And I realized how surface level, my cats are playing with toys if you can hear that, the group friendships were. And that for most of my life, I saw friendships as like 5 people getting together and watching a movie and telling jokes. And then going home and not talking to each other. Like that was my idea of what friendships were. And I thought that people like having sleepovers and talking about their feelings and like or like doing each other's makeup or going on shopping trips together or getting coffee together, like I thought all of that was just movie stuff and that people didn't actually have friends like that. Which is so sad to say out loud. And like when I was in these friend groups, especially in high school, like I knew that like 2 of the people in the group would sometimes hang out with each other. And there's no way to know this, but either like no one invited me one-on-one to go do something, or I just never thought to invite them to go do something, or maybe they did and I just rejected the invitation. I really don't remember, but I was not really doing that. Except for occasionally with Shelby. Once again, shout out Shelby. And in college, I felt like I got a lot better at making friends because when I tell you, like, senior year of high school, all through, like, junior year of college, my mask was so good. I was also, like, just not a very good person, but I feel like I was pretty personable and I knew how to talk to people. I knew how to be weird in like a funny, like quirky way. So that helped me make a lot of like friends and acquaintances. And it was still all people who could all hang out in one room together. So it was easy to be in group situations where I didn't have to pull a lot of work, but also I was getting more comfortable like sitting at the dining hall with one person and just like working on stuff together. So it was getting easier, but I still didn't have many of those deeper connections. And then we remember 2020. We already talked about that a little bit. All of my friends graduated, some before 2020, but I graduated in 2020. Like, that is still the last time that I've talked to most of my friends from college. Like, that bond was not strong enough to exist without us all sitting in a classroom together. And that was really hard to go through. And I know it goes both ways. I could reach out just as much as they could reach out. I am reconnecting with a few of those people right now, but I just felt so lonely, especially when me and my boyfriend moved into this apartment in 2021, because my best friend still lived about like 45 minutes away, and a lot of my friends were in different states. My usual method of latching onto my partner's friends didn't work because all of my boyfriend's friends are in different states, and he's never really had like a friend group. He has only had individual friends, so I couldn't just like insert myself into that friend group. So I really had to do some work. And by work, I mean download Bumble BFF. I made 2 really amazing friends, and I talk to them all the time now. And I have also made a lot of really great friends from work. And in the last year especially, I've done so much work to open up to people, listen when people are opening up to me, and just do things like go shopping with my friends or like send them memes. Like, I feel like I'm at the age of 25. I'm 25, by the way. I'm learning how to make friends like I should have in preschool. I feel like I didn't answer that question very well, but yes, it has always been hard for me to make friends, but I didn't realize it because I didn't understand what friends were really supposed to be until now. Now that I have, like, I'm not gonna cry, but now that I have really cool friends. And I am so excited to, like, experience more friendship. Like, build those bonds. Okay, no more sad questions. So, this next question is from It's All I Got. And they asked, have you seen any episodes of children's shows about autism? PBS especially plays them the first week or 2 of April. And if so, do you have any opinions about their portrayals? So, originally I was going to do some research and look up some of these to give you an honest reaction, but I didn't do that. I was too tired to comb through those. If anyone has specific scenes or characters they want me to react to, I would love for you to drop links in the comments or send me something. And maybe I can do a little video talking about that, since that will require a lot more research than me just sitting down and talking. But that is a really good question. I haven't really watched much where people are explicitly autistic and they talk about that in the show, except for Everything's Gonna Be Okay, which is on Hulu. And it's such a good show. And there is actual legit autistic representation. I think it's the first role on TV where an autistic character is played by an autistic person, which is really cool. And I won't say anything else about the show, but I think everybody should watch it. And I won't go into my fan theories about whether their characters are autistic or anything, at least not in this video. So I will have to get back to you on that question. So now for the fun stuff. And Fairy asks, do you have any fidget toys? And if you do, what's your favorite? So let me go get the fidget bowl that's on my living room table right now. Community fidget bowl. Let me use my microphone. I keep this in my living room and it's a crowd favorite. Especially now that I have a lot of neurodivergent friends. I have a lot of fidget toys. This one is just really fun to look at. It's a little jelly from Five Below, but we've used it a lot and it's kind of getting gross. I'm missing one. Okay, so my favorite is this little slug. I'm sure you guys have seen these all over the internet, but it's called an articulating slug, I think, and people 3D print these. And you just roll them around and it's really fun. And the sound is very nice to me. I'll have to look up where my dad got that because my dad got it for me for Christmas. And I also just love fidgeting with random stuff. So like this is a little crystal pendant that I have. I spent a lot of time fidgeting with things that weren't exactly fidget toys. So I have a lot of those. So I definitely recommend an articulating slug. And let me go get one of my other favorite fidget toys. I feel like I don't see visual fidget toys very often, like visual stims. But this is, I don't even know what to call it, like a bubble twirler. I don't know, it just looks really cool. And it's pretty quiet. Endless fun. And also, shameless plug, I make fidget and sensory toys. So those are my favorite fidget toys so far. I don't have very much. And I hope to get more. So if you have recommendations, drop them. Ren Fair Goddess asks, what is your favorite stim? I kind of like beat all my stims out of myself as a child, so I'm not really sure, to be completely honest. But one that I know for sure that I've never grown out of is singing, specifically singing along to songs that are playing very loudly. So like in the car, when I'm driving alone, sometimes with other people too, I am constantly singing. So if I am driving for an hour, I will not have a voice by the time I'm done. It has always been my favorite. I was always singing in the car as a kid. We would like ride dirt bikes and four-wheelers, and I would use the loud noise to just like sing at the top of my lungs the whole time I was riding because no one else could hear it. I don't know, there's just something about it. And then I do play with my hair a lot, I guess, and with little things. This necklace is by Citrus Witchcraft, by the way. I talk about them a lot on this channel, but this was a custom necklace that they made for me. And there's a lot of different textures and stuff on here. So I love just messing with my accessories and clothes. And then another stim that I've never grown out of or made myself stop is drawing little hearts on my skin. It's not like, I'm not scraping myself, but just like drawing little hearts on my fingertips. I do that constantly. I really need to explore stims and figure out what other stims I like, because I really, really need an outlet. Because a lot of the time I can feel that my body needs to stim, but I don't have the tools. Those are my favorites for right now. And I will get back to you once I figure it out. Oh my god, this video is so long. I just looked at the timestamp. I'm so sorry. Okay, so this is the last question. Actually, there's 2 questions in here. But before we do that, I would love to make a second Q&A and also just make more autism content in general. So if you have your own questions that you want me to answer in the next Q&A, plop them in the comments and I will save them for later. No question is too weird, or I don't know. You can ask me anything. Okay, moving on. So Moths with Socks, which is the coolest name ever, asks, If you could make neurotypical society understand one thing about autism, what would it be? Which is such a cool question. I wanted to think and give like a really good answer to it, but I already had an immediate answer, which was we can hear you, which might not be what you expected me to say, but I mean this in two ways. So I have periods of being mute, where I physically cannot speak. And if I do, like if I have to, it feels like I am being ripped apart from the inside out. And especially in high school, I would go mute a lot. Even though people didn't know that I was autistic, they still thought that, like, since I didn't talk, I couldn't hear them. And if anyone watched Touch, that's another show that I want to rewatch and see how the representation is. But it was basically like that, where since I wouldn't talk, some people would treat me like I couldn't even hear them. And they would just say whatever they wanted. Or they would treat me like I didn't know anything. Or that I don't know. It just felt bad. And I feel like with people, autistic people who are mute most of the time, I see people also treating them like they can't hear you talking about them, which really sucks. And the second part of this answer, sometimes I do see like autism mom content or people who have TikTok accounts documenting their like brother or daughter or something who is autistic, and it's supposed to be like inspirational, entertaining videos or whatever. And the way that these people treat the autistic person like they're a child, or like they are like they can't hear them, basically. Obviously, I can't speak for every autistic person. And I mean, I would have to have someone whose experience relates more to the people in these videos confirm this for me. But I'm making the assumption that they can detect that you're using such a condescending tone to them and using them for entertainment. I don't know. It all boils down to like, we can hear you. Like, we know what you're doing. We can hear what you're saying. I don't know. It just really bothers me. So basically, autistic people can hear you. You can talk to them. You don't have to talk about them. And also, try talking to autistic people like they're actual adult human beings. Try that out once, maybe. Let me know how it goes. And Moths with Socks also asks, also, what are your special interests? If you don't mind sharing. Fellow autistic here, can't wait for the Q&A. This one kind of goes along with the stimming, where I still need to explore that, but the things and topics that make me like physically like giddy kind of and super super excited are like fashion and personal style. Like the Met Gala just happened last night, and I do not care about designers. I also don't really care about celebrities, but I need to see those outfits so bad. And I love shopping for clothes. I love putting outfits together. I love just like looking at magazines at people's outfits or on Pinterest and stuff. I cannot get enough of that. And also art, especially like textile art and painting, especially more modern stuff. Like, I could also just look for hours at people's artwork or their like crochet creations. Obviously, I'm really big on crochet. And sometimes I would rather just like look at what other people have done than make my own stuff. So those are two things that I'm very passionate about. I also really love rocks and like little trinkets. I guess like collecting would be a special interest, maybe. So like little trinkets and toys. I also have like rock collection, button collection, marble collection, sticker collection. Oh man, what else do I have? Bolo tie collection. Just looking around. Weird jewelry collection. A little bit of a Squishmallow collection. Yarn collection. Movie ticket collection. I don't know, I just really like stuff and things. And then also, houses. Like exterior house design, interior house design. I love aesthetics, basically. I didn't realize that those are all just like aesthetic things until now. Okay, my camera's gonna die very quickly. I love you guys so much. Thank you for asking me these questions. And if you stayed this long, thank you for listening to me ramble. It felt very therapeutic to me. I will see you guys in the comments, and I will see you in the next video. So drink water, eat a snack, take care.